The Dale Show! Hi, welcome to episode 11 of The Dale Show. We're going to do the Illuminati part 2 / is the Illuminati bad? Because last week, part 1 was the Illuminati good? And they weren't. Like I said, they had intentions that were good. But now I'm saying, is the Illuminati bad? And the troll here is kind of no, because I don't think it's the actual Illuminati that people keep thinking about and referencing. They're kind of like, it's like people keep saying like the Illuminati is the big bad that controls everything. And I don't really think it is. I think it's more of like either like some Moloch cult or Saturn worship. So, or as David Icke said, it's the reptilians trying to like make us all hate each other and feel bad so that they can eat our energy. So Jeff
yummy
again with me.
energy.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
So it's kind of like this episode might be all over the place, but we're going to try our best to keep it on the tracks because like every episode of the Dale Show, I'll be like, oh, this might be hard to fill an hour worth of content. I'll go look up some stuff. And then I just fucking open up a cave and it's full of treasure. And I was like, this is way too much. And I was actually quite nervous before this episode because I don't usually get like, I'm not nervous because I think I'm going to sound stupid or anything because I sound great. I was just nervous. I was like, this is too much stuff
It's
to
a lot
fucking
of stuff.
streamline into one coherent narrative for one podcast. So if that doesn't happen, sorry in advance. And if it does happen, I guess I'm prematurely pat myself on the back, maybe.
So you're saying once again, I have my work cut out for me today, keeping you on task. So here we go.
Yes. The
All
only
right.
problem is the narrative you got to keep us on isn't just a straight line because it's
Right.
like,
Yeah. Rarely
I guess,
is it.
yeah. The hardest part is like, we're going to kind of do the second part or in 2 parts, whatever. What I mean is we're going to try go from David Icke's reptilian Illuminati to the Saturn worship Moloch Illuminati that we did. Oh yeah, me and Jeff watched Eyes Wide Shut
Oh
because
boy.
I thought it would be cheating. I was like, because Isaac Weishaupt, whose book we referenced in the last episode, we'll reference in this again. I'm just gonna pull up that name. So in case you're listening to this, if you're listening to this, I'd recommend listening to the last part because we talked about Adam Weishaupt's Illuminati in 1776.
That was Isaac. Adam is the modern version.
No,
You got that?
Isaac's the modern one.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Adam's the old one.
Right. Now I got it backwards. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that happens. Shit. Okay, his book was A Grand Unified Conspiracy Theory. I just wanted to make sure I pulled that up so people know I didn't all make. So if in case you basically, if you don't agree with me, it's not my fault because I'm citing other people. That's my
Story, and you're sticking to it.
yeah. Oh, also the website Gaia makes its first appearance. I've somehow managed to avoid it for 10 episodes. Are you familiar with that website?
I don't know what that one is. Tell me a little bit about it.
It's like this like woo-woo kind of hippie website that does all the crystals and stuff. And like, I'm not saying you shouldn't believe it. I'm just saying that it gets a bad rap. It's like the crystal reading equivalent of a website. But anyway, somebody did a nice summation of Icke's reptilians on there. So I was like, oh, I could just read this out loud and not do any more research. Perfect.
There we go. Yeah, let them do the work for you.
Oh, also I got Bible quotes for where Moloch is in the Bible. So I also wanted to start off this episode as sort of like a PSA, because the more I research the Illuminati or the reptilians or what the CIA is doing with false flags and all this stuff, the more it just seems like all these separate nefarious groups are just trying to split us up, like getting the population to hate each other, whether they're going by the political divide, religious divides, or whatever. The one way to fight back against all nefarious conspiracy bad guys is to just get along with each other, tell dick jokes, and have laughs.
I was very familiar with sports and the
Yeah,
internet. Yeah,
yeah,
cool.
exactly. Like,
Yeah, so everybody wants the same thing: dick jokes and hanging out.
we all just
Just
want to be loved and love, or
yeah,
love someone and be loved.
yeah. So the basically the big bads are trying to gain mind share and
hmm They're trying to
political clout.
sneak their little fingers in there, which is also falls in line for the Illuminati. So I took a couple notes of while I was listening to Wise Hop's book. So let's see. Illuminati right now. It's hard because I just said the Illuminati was two different things, and now I'm just gonna like cite the Illuminati as a thing. So
Why don't you
we'll
just talk
just
about the modern, like the difference between the previous Illuminati, the end we talked about in the last episode,
yeah.
the rise of the Illuminati, the fall of the Illuminati, basically being overshadowed by the very organization they looked out for help in the I was going to say the Shriners, the what the people that run the Shriners. Oh my God, help me out here,
The
Marty, out of
Freemasons.
the Freemasons. So
Yeah.
basically the Freemasons were like, nah, Illuminati, you're getting too big for your britches. We're shutting that
hmm
shit down. They disappeared for a couple hundred years, and now they've reappeared in the 90s in
Yeah.
Hollywood. The
And
60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s.
yeah, the king of France got rid of them and put out a
Right.
death order that if you're in the Illuminati, you're dead.
So,
Um,
so the Illuminati is effectively over for a few hundred years or a couple
yeah,
hundred years.
250 years they're
Yeah,
gone, and then they
and
kind of
now we're
start
back
up,
to the
yeah,
modern
like
era
in the
of the Illuminati.
70s. But
Yeah.
when I talk about the Illuminati right now, it's kind of just a shorthand for the big, like I've come to kind of think of it as the shorthand for all the nefarious groups. Like it's not just like a group of 10 dudes in a dark room somewhere. To me,
But
it's
maybe
like
it is.
all that it could be. So
Yeah.
when I say Illuminati, oh, this is all just also confusing. Maybe that's part of the point.
That
So
is
when
part of the
I,
point.
so I'm
Cloak
just
and
gonna say
smoke and mirrors.
the Illuminati. When I reference it in this episode, it's just what people are calling the Illuminati as the bad guys and conspiracies. Does that make enough sense?
Makes tons of sense. Yeah.
Okay.
In summation, it's the Illuminati is the general reference for the people who are trying to control everything behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Okay. So the Illuminati, they're like huge into pop culture. And David Icke goes through this and he says that they like try to like make us think a certain way so they can brain control us and stuff. But Isaac Weishaupt in his book, One Grand Unifying Conspiracy Theory, he starts I took some notes from there. So he says the CIA had a Project Mockingbird in the 50s where they planted major people in the news organizations, and then they would type stories and bring up stories and stuff to shoot down communism. And this is a good example of what people think the Illuminati are, because this is what the CIA actually did, and it's provable. So they would have these anti-communist news stories in the major news organizations throughout the world, and then they would kind of just copy each other and put it out. So it's like that's just a nice little example, because it's like you think of that and that's the CIA doing this. So now just think of the Illuminati doing this in pop culture right now.
ID
So
propaganda campaigns.
yeah, exactly. Like it's like
Yeah.
almost like subliminal propaganda and stuff, because they want you to not pay attention to it. They kind of just want to sneak in. So like we were talking before about Eyes Wide Shut has Illuminati symbolism in that, and that was supposedly Kubrick trying to blow the lid off the Illuminati, sort of do the opposite using their own methods and stuff. So
You know the whole story behind this too, the other conspiracy theory behind Eyes Wide Shut and Kubrick, and he died 6 days after the final edit or something like that. Here he was.
mhm,
So there's like this whole
which was
conspiracy that
666 days before January 1st,
January
2001.
2000, yeah. So there's this whole theory as well that like because he made this movie and it was all the way to production that he was killed by the Illuminati for exposing
Mhm.
them. However, if you've watched Eyes Wide Shut and you're looking at Kubrick at the end of his career and you're taking all this stuff into account, I have lots to talk about for this, but we can talk about it after. But
Yeah.
it's just an interesting parallel theory. And I don't know when Dale first asked me to watch the movie, I was like, oh God, I watched it in 1999 and I remember it being masks, boobs, and overdose. And that was pretty much all I remembered from it. I don't remember it being particularly great. So I watched it with a bit more of a keen eye this time. And I still didn't come up with anything other than the overarching kind of Illuminati theme. I didn't see anything in particular except
Okay,
one
we'll get
one
to
piece of the
that.
puzzle. Okay, cool.
We'll
I'm
get
excited.
to
You carry
because
on though.
I had to
Setting the
follow
scene.
Izip's notes to
Yeah,
see what was bad in there, but I kind
gotcha.
of wanted to set the scene and stuff and
Yep.
talk about
Yep.
that last because that's the second like Moloch part of the
Gotcha.
Illuminati.
Yes.
Um, okay, so fuck, just looking at my notes here. This
All
is
right.
what
I
I
took
mean.
you
Like
off. I
there's
took you off
so
track. That's
yeah,
what I
thanks, Jeff.
did. Yeah,
Real doing a real good job here.
you're for it.
I could get myself lost in the woods, no
Yeah,
problem.
you don't
I
need
don't
me to
need
help you
help
with
doing
that. Yeah. Hey, Dale, look, something shiny right over there.
yeah.
Huh?
So the Illuminati uses entertainment medium to manipulate our thoughts and brainwaves. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as everyone is thinking the same thing, so that everyone's thoughts and brainwaves kind of match up. And the Illuminati uses mind control technology to read those thoughts through the resonant frequency of these neural thought patterns. Then they inject ideas into us to control. Like that's like this Henry Macow guy, Macow, he says that's how they like control us. So it's like if you go to say pop culture like songs, they will get them to all talk about one thing. So we all start thinking about the same thing. Like, what would be a good example of this that's not too dated or political? Like, I don't know, just like what it's sometimes it just sees like you see something pop up into like the zeitgeist or the news that is just like more popular than it should be. Like, oh, that driver's license song, because I think I bitched about that on here
What that
because it's
is,
just
but not
like
cool.
it's just a terrible song. It starts with the dinging of a door and it got like super popular. And so what they're saying is that the Illuminati is like a bunch of records X and they're pushing stuff like that so that we
Gotcha.
all start thinking about it. So our brain waves are like, oh, this song, the fucking driver's license song. And then they
Yeah,
all kind
we're
of match
keyed, we're
up. And
keyed
then,
in on that, and then other pieces start popping up subliminally that you're not even thinking of that are
mm-hmm.
feeding off of that. I gotcha. So then
Yeah.
you're no longer consciously thinking about it. It's just part of your day-to-day routine, taking in that entertainment, and that you see it as taking in entertainment, but you're actually being messaged at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like, and the thing is, the sneaky part of this is the um the people like the artists, the performing artists and stuff aren't part of the Illuminati. They were just granted their fame by the Illuminati. It's kind of like a fast and easy way for them to get super popular is, and then then they'll come up to them and be like, hey, remember when we made you famous? You got to put
You got to do
these
this for
messages
us.
in.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a Faustian bargain,
Yeah.
but instead of the devil, it's the Illuminati. And Isaac Weishaupt, whose book I was talking about, he has this huge career of like pointing out where all these different symbolism and stuff of the Illuminati is in music and music videos and stuff. And he was saying that rap music is particularly rife with this because rap has always been about like gunfights, murder, and death, and just like trying to make it any way you can, and
I don't
like
know about
gang
that.
violence and stuff.
Me,
Wow, it's more pervasive in say rap
yeah.
music than pop music.
Not a lot of gunfights in rock and roll.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah.
So like they can put like one of the things he was saying is they put like dark symbolism and stuff into the music so it like kind of bums you out, where and rap music has already had a bunch of that stuff in there. So you like I guess way back you could think of Snoop Dogg's Murder Was the Case. Like that song is about how he was told like he was convicted of murdering one of his friends in a drive-by when it wasn't really him. And then you hear that and you're like, oh, bummer, dude. And then you get these negative brainwave thoughts that are feeding the reptilians type of deal. So it's like, this is what I mean by how it's kind of like, because it's like we're jumping back from like they're using the pop music to mind control us, but they're also using it to make us feel bad.
I mean, you can look at that too as like generationally. Even I'm thinking of like grunge in the '90s. None of that was super positive, right? Like it
Hmm.
was all negative pieces. So you go from like rap really escalated in the like late '80s, early '90s kind of thing with old school into
Hmm.
into the '90s, into the Judgment Day soundtrack where you have rap and grunge together in
Yeah.
harmony, and then the explosion of grunge into what became the sugary popness of the early 2000s.
Hmm. Like
So
pop rock or whatever.
yeah, like pop rock
Yeah.
and
Indie, I guess you could say, like
yeah,
grunge turned into
totally,
like
right? It
indie
all
pop
flows
rock.
into like there's a
Yeah.
history of depressing music flowing from one piece to the other,
Hmm.
spouting sort of the negativity or the trials and tribulations of coming of age, those kind of
Yeah.
pieces. Getting
And
away
one of
from
yeah.
Dale talking about rap being about violence constantly. There's
Yeah. I don't want to throw the whole genre under the bus, but I was just saying,
but you
like,
did.
people are saying,
So
yeah,
yeah.
okay. I mean, so
Don't want to sound like a dick, but
I don't want to sound like a dick, but I'm a total dick.
totally.
Uh yeah, and then or do you know what MK Ultra is?
Course I know NK Ultras. That's the mind control
Yeah.
thing. It was
That
in New York, right? Like
no,
Montauk, New
it
York.
was in the California. In the California where they did like or it was like when they used acid. Here, I'll give you a little breakdown of it. They MK like this is how they used it.
This was the like acid and like LSD
Mhm,
being put into
yeah.
people to like try to make super soldiers.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you a little breakdown of it. MK Ultra was trauma-based mind control, which they used on young children aged 5 to 10 and introduced them to significant trauma so that they learn to dissociate. This is when the brain breaks information into little chambers like a honeycomb in order to hide fragments of trauma to prevent the conscious mind from experiencing pain. And they take these chambers and call them altars. And then they set like, they pick one altar as like so you could think of these little altars as personalities.
Yeah.
So they take one main altar and they put that to the forefront, and I guess that's like the default personality of these kids. And then that's the personality they use to interact with the normal world and stuff. Then they figure out a way to hypnotically trigger these locked up altars, and then they bring them to the forefront, and then they push them back, and they kind of do this to exercise someone so that they can control them easier and snap it on a thing like finger snap, and then it's this other thing. So it would be like one of the things is what's it, Catcher in the Rye, how whenever there's a lone gunman they would say that they found the book Catcher in the Rye on them. This was like back in the 70s and stuff. So they're saying that Catcher in the Rye was this trigger that would bring the other personality to the forefront. And the thing is, these different disassociated personalities, they don't know about each other. And when a different one's in front, the like main alter or personality can't remember what happened or anything. And this is like a
There
sorry,
was a movie. There was a movie that I watched recently from
the Manchurian
2015.
Candidate.
No, it wasn't the Manchurian. That's the sort of original one. There was a
Yeah.
modern take on this, and it was a Jesse Eisenberg movie, American Ultra, and it was effectively that. He had no idea he was
Oh
like.
yeah,
Remember, he had
the
no
like
idea. Yeah,
comedy one.
no, it wasn't even a comedy. It was an action movie.
Oh
Oddly
yeah,
enough,
but
and
it was like a little bit
he had
comedy.
yeah, but he had no idea that he had those
Mhm.
skills, right? And so he was like
Yeah.
activated kind of thing. So it's that same kind of idea, right? He
Yeah, it's like
basically
the Jason Bourne thing
yeah,
too.
Jason Bourne kind of thing, right? But
Yeah.
his was amnesia, so it's more loosely based on that kind of thing. But like the American Ultra was like literally about this. Like he was trained, he was like raised like that. He was had these pieces in
Yeah.
his brain. Then he was left to go out in the world. He had no idea. It's just sort of like whatever. Then one day they needed to activate him as like an assassin, and they did, right?
Hmm.
With these triggers. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So it's like you get that, and then like you can look at that in history, and it's not really provable, but you like look at the assassination of JFK. They're saying like Oswald had that, or how Jack Ruby just shot him like when he was in public, and they're saying that he was like trauma MK Ultra or whatever. So the reason I brought this up, kind of incongruous to the music thing I was talking about, was Isaac Weishaupt was floating this theory, not Dale. I don't want to get sued by anybody. Was floating this theory that the Mickey Mouse Club was sort of doing this, and then you get people like Justin Timberlake, Britney Spears, and all these other performing artists, and like Beyonce. I don't. Was she in the Disney
Don't believe
Club?
so.
Yeah. Oh, and then the modern
Check it out
version would
for
be
you.
like Disney Channel shows, like Miley Cyrus or Hillary Duff. And what he was saying was that these people have different personalities. So you have Beyonce, you know how she like turns into Sasha Fierce or whatever sometimes. They're saying that that's so that like regular Beyonce won't really remember what
Oh,
Sasha Fierce is doing
it was
and
Ryan
performing
Gosling
as.
who was in the Mickey Mouse Club.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling, Justin Timberlake, Britney Spears, and then
Ariana
Ariana
Grande.
Grande, and earlier on it was like Annette Funicello, who was super popular in the
Mhm.
like my mom's generation kind of thing too.
Frankie Annette.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
yep,
was like all that surf music thing.
totally.
So yeah, so that he was saying that they do this to these kids so that they can do all
Oh,
this
Christina
stuff.
Aguilera was too,
Yeah.
and JC Chasez from and
Chassails.
Chasez from NSYNC,
Yeah. And then
Selena
so
Gomez.
yeah. So all these
Like,
people were like, I
yeah,
don't know.
and they all went on to become relatively famous entertainers and singers and
Mhm.
people that are in the public mind share and in the public sphere and putting earworms
Yeah,
into you as you rock and bop through your
exactly.
day.
Like it's funny because and he was saying that like remember when Britney Spears went crazy? He was saying that that was basically
Had
her
the same
software
haircut.
crashing, and that was basically like her alters kind of just skizzled out, and she had like this like mental breakdown because her MK Ultra programming kind of got fucked up, and then they reprogrammed her after. And it's like if you see her now compared to everybody else we named, she's like the odd person out where it's like whatever happened to Britney Spears, she's
You're
not
saying maybe she
really.
overcame her programming?
Yeah, I'm saying maybe she rejected it and then they tried to reprogram her. Like, why
Didn't
else
work unsuccessfully.
would she have her dad as her like caregiver into her like almost 40s? You know what
Read
I
about
mean?
that a little while ago, and I think that is for child stars. That's like a relatively normal thing to do because
That
children
old though?
not that old, but
Yeah.
yeah,
And so one of the things that happens is like obviously if you're dealing with a child this young, you have to get the parents to agree with it. And one of the things they're saying is that's why Michael Jackson hated his dad so much. Because one of the things with Michael Jackson was like everybody remembers how crazy the king of pop was. I don't know. I don't want to say crazy like mental illness crazy. I'm saying crazy like all the
it's a
weird stuff
whole
that
podcast on its own.
happened around his
Yeah,
whole career. And one of the things was how he was constantly doing plastic surgery to his face. And one of the theories that was floated for that was because he didn't want to look like his father, because he hated his father so much that he didn't want to look into a mirror and see his father. So that's why he was like changing his skin tone and the shape of his nose and the chin and stuff. And then they're also one of the other theories that they're floating is that Michael Jackson, remember how he like just like out of nowhere, like he was the king of everything. And then they're like, oh yeah, he diddles kids. And everybody was like, wait, what? And then
yeah.
they could never prove it, but they like accused him of doing it. So one of the theories was he was about to come clean with what the Illuminati had done to him and made him do, so that they did that to ruin his career and then eventually like get like kind of make him sound crazy and stuff.
Right. Did they discredit him by
Hmm.
adding in a bunch more issues?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I heard that the plastics. I remember the prevailing thought of the day back in the day when this was
Hmm.
all happening was that he was trying to look like Diana Ross with the plastic surgery. But the dad theory makes sense too if his dad is governing him and like being, all dominating over his life and controlling his finances and controlling his
Hmm.
tour dates, etc. Yeah, you don't
And
want
it
to.
gets
Yeah.
so dark because there's other theories like they're saying that Michael Jackson's doctor came out and said he was like chemically castrated
Yeah, I remember
and
hearing that
by
too.
like his father okayed it or whatever. So
Yeah,
that's another reason. And then they're like saying that maybe he was pimped out when he was a kid and stuff. And it's just like that whole Michael Jackson thing. that's like a total another can of worms I didn't want to get into because I'm
Right.
trying to wade myself through these other cans of worms.
Oh yeah, it's just a big old bunch of cans of worms with
Yeah.
random stuff in it. Okay, so back on track. Programming.
So
And,
now, after I've explained to how the Illuminati's like getting their message out through pop culture, let's talk about what David Icke thinks is happening.
cool. Here we go.
Is that a good?
Yeah, that's a
Is it
great
all?
segue. Let's move from there.
Are we lost in the woods still, or are we on the
Nope,
path?
we're on the
Okay.
path because now you're talking about David Icke. You're talking about the lizard people, which
So
also
he-
I'm gonna talk about
Yeah.
Tom Cruise and this part later when you're done, when we
Okay,
bring it back to Eyes
cool.
Wide Shut. So I'm gonna stow that for now, but talk about David Icke. Talk about this next part. Go.
Also, how
You're on
weird is
track.
Tom Cruise looking? How weird looking is Tom Cruise? Like I don't like when Eyes Wide
Just
Shut.
right now
They
because we
showed
can
him
do
from the
this.
side.
Yeah,
He
we
had,
can
like,
do
this
this right now.
big head. I kind of want to save it. Okay,
I'm
let's
ready to
okay.
go. Okay, stow it for now.
I'll save what.
Go
I'll
on
save
David
that.
Icke. We'll get back to Tom Cruise.
This is just
I got some
future
shit to say.
teases of what we're gonna talk about.
Foreshadowing. It's
Dude, could you imagine if Tom Cruise sued me? And
he might.
Do you think it would be like the Streisand effect where I would like get super famous, or it would just ruin my life?
The funny thing about cross-border litigation and knowing you is you don't have anything to get sued for. There's like, take my laptop, Tom Cruise. That's the
don't.
Yeah.
It's
You want my car?
$700.
Yeah, $700. How the hell am I going to replace this? Yeah. Between the two of us, we don't have enough assets for Tom Cruise to take from us.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
So, like I mentioned before, reptilians feed off the negative or low vibrations. And you got to think of it like Sith in the Star Wars. Like the reptilians are the Sith, and they're trying to make everybody hate and feel anger and all the bad feelings because they feed off the negative side of the force. So, like, and then, okay,
blow through you, Dale.
yeah. So I'm gonna read.
Me, horny finger lightning.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna talk about that thing I said off of Gaia.
Oh yeah.
So
Go for it.
This is like the nice little breakdown of it. So there are two types of famous reptilians, according to David Icke: the hybrids and the full bloods. The hybrids are an alleged crossbreed.
Red?
I'm just going to start over. There are two
Good.
types of famous reptilians: hybrids and full bloods. The hybrids are an alleged crossbreed between humans and full blooded reptilians who are too few in number to take over the planet. Hence, the reason they cloak their identity while manipulating world leaders and financiers. I just read financiers as financiers.
Financiers.
This is why you gotta.
Yeah,
I guess
sorry.
I
was
guess I
typing
should have like
something, so
I should have
Pre-read
pre-read
these?
this as practice like you did in elementary school, so you wouldn't read words dumb and then the girls wouldn't want to like pay attention to you because they thought you were dumb. Remember in like elementary school when you'd read out loud and you're like, if I nail this, girls will like me. I don't know what girls thought.
I never had that problem.
Oh.
Girls didn't like me. Nobody liked me.
Oh.
That problem.
God, one of the ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was not a popular person. It's fine. I never lived in one place long enough to be popular. It's fine. You know, yeah, you need time and traction to make that happen. I wasn't cool to do that.
Okay, so there is also a hierarchy, according to Icke, of which the full bloods or Dracos sit atop, maintaining control of the hybrids who are unaware they are even reptilian. The world's most influential political figures are of the hybrid ilk, including modern presidents, prime ministers, and bankers. Others believe hybrids exist as reptilian celebrities, but Icke typically sticks to institutions and political entities, especially those with nefarious histories like the CIA, the Bilderberg Group, and the Trilateral Commission, which I don't know what the fuck that is. Sorry, I should have looked that up before I read it out loud.
Does that hit me with it again? I'll look it up for you.
The Trilateral Commission. So, yeah, does this kind of make sense what Icke believes? So he believes that
okay.
There's the secret cabal of reptilians that are in control of everything.
The Trilateral Commission logo is basically a reverse a reverse recycling logo, everything going into the middle instead of everything going in a circle.
Oh, really?
It's super weird. So yeah, founded in 1973. They do have, it's an annual conference held in Tokyo.
Mm.
There's more than 390 members. So what do you do with the Icke stuff, I guess, is my question. So where
What's
did you
that?
want to go with, where did you want to go with the Icke piece and like the Trilateral Commission and the lizard people? Was that kind of the end of it?
That's
Or did you
kind of the end of it there.
we're moving on to Tom Cruise.
Okay, wait. Let's
Wait,
do
no, but this is important
yeah.
because there's a segue. There's a great segue piece here. So you're
Okay.
talking about, you told us how there are the two versions of the people. There's the Dracos,
Hmm.
who are the sort of overseers, who are the full-blooded lizard people,
Yeah.
and then you have the secondary tier of lizard people. And there's this prevailing theory that Tom Cruise is one of those lizard people, who's a
Hmm.
celebrity, who's a half-blood, not a full-blood person, and the evidence and the proof in this is his middle tooth.
Oh yeah, that always
So
bugs me.
I
I
have a
always
picture.
get
I have a
hung up on
picture
that.
of it ready to share, ready to go. So there's this whole middle tooth thing, and I like, so full disclosure. When I watched Eyes Wide Shut, I'd taken an edible, and
Mhm.
I was watching the entire time for the middle tooth. There was like, I couldn't stop looking at it, and
I never did.
yeah, it's like just every scene you look at it, you're like, there's that damn middle tooth again. So Tom Cruise's incisors, or no incisors, or whatever these front ones are called, one
Yeah.
of them is like dead in the middle of his face.
Yeah, which is weird because I was always under the impression that to be a popular actor, you
But
had
to
to
have like
have like
that perfect
symmetrical
symmetrical T
symmetry and
zone.
beauty and
Yeah.
stuff. And then I thought I watched because of the first time I noticed it was in that old movie, Legend. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow, Tom Cruise has effed up teeth, which I
Yeah.
didn't notice in the newer movies. So I was like, oh, he must have had that fixed because I've never noticed it. But once
Oh,
I saw it in that movie
can't
Legend,
look away from it.
I can't not see it now. And it's funny that you brought that up because
Yeah.
I was watching that in Eyes Wide Shut and I was like, fucking weirdo middle tooth. And then I was like, I didn't even want to bring it up because I thought
Yeah.
that was just a me
So
being a weird thing.
nope. So a long time ago, like before I even thought about podcast or this or anything, it was like probably somewhere in the early 2000s. Someone brought up the point to me that like, oh, Tom Cruise has that middle tooth because he's a lizard person, and I was like, I don't know what that means. And I like, it was this dude
Nice.
Ryan who I worked with, who I barely knew, and he was like he was going on about this, and I'd never noticed it, I'd never cared, and then I saw a picture of Tom Cruise and I was like, oh my god, he does have a
Mm-hmm.
middle tooth. And so the whole, like, it really, when you look at it, it looks like maybe his jaws just shifted over to one side a little bit, but like, and there could be any multitude of reasons medically why that's
Mm-hmm.
happened, or just or physiologically why that's happened, but the belief that that could be a lizard like aspect, which a doesn't make any sense because also most lizards have like fangs and they have the same sort
Mm-hmm.
of jaw setup that we all do that is symmetrical. But it's an interesting thing to think about. Like maybe like he has the requisite number and correct pattern of teeth. It's just that they're shifted over to the one side,
I wonder if
right?
he like got his face broken as a little kid or something.
I mean, my nose isn't symmetrical. It's been broken 5 times, so it's sort of
Five
sits to the,
times?
yeah. So it sits to the right of my face, right? So like I have,
Great.
you
Now I
know,
can't unsee it,
yeah,
Jeff.
no, you can't see it. So my like, if you did that bifurcated face line like Tom
Yeah.
Cruise's, you'd see my nose sits to one side.
Oh,
It's not perfectly
crazy.
symmetrical, which is why I wasn't popular with the ladies. So I don't have a symmetrical face. So
Personally, I've never had my nose broken. Not saying I shouldn't have, because I've had the same typical wipeouts. Like I've face planted on my bike, I've been punched in the face, I've fallen out of a hayloft, I've like closed myself on a fence post. But I guess maybe I have fat cheeks or something. I don't know. I've just never broke my nose.
in fact, maybe your forehead protrudes far enough out to stop it. But yeah, I've
Yeah, because
had
I run like this.
yeah, totally right. You run head first and everything.
I did
Yeah.
actually wang my head right there on something that I can't remember.
Yeah.
Maybe I have fucking dissociative disorder
There you
and
go.
somewhere there's like a little altar in the back that remembers what happened because I have a scar here and I don't remember what the
Oh
fuck
yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
But
I have more scars than I'd care to count, mostly around my face for reasons of being punched.
yeah.
So
So I'm keeping that all in, by the way,
cool.
because I don't we can't
No, that's
recreate
fine.
that. So I might edit a
So,
little bit of that out because I kind of lost track with the David Icke stuff because I kind of hit the end of that note and I was just like, oh shit, I thought this was going somewhere, but it isn't. So basically,
On the same
I don't
track.
know.
I'm still there with you. I just wanted to
Yeah.
bring that Tom Cruise place up that
No,
like gives
that's
that
that's a
middle
great
piece.
segue, and I'm sorry for just fucking it right now as I brought it up and spoke about it. But I just wanted to leave the David Icke stuff behind because it's like on one hand, David Icke is super interesting to look into, but on the other hand, it's like quicksand.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. You can't get out. There's just more holes to
yeah,
go,
and there's
more
like
treasures to find.
and with the other thing I was talking about, how when you open up a can of worms with this stuff, is there's so much more to David Icke's reptilian theory. Like he also believes that the moon isn't real and it is some sort of satellite slash antenna that, remember when I was talking about how our brainwaves like linking up and stuff when we all
Yep.
think about the same thing? He thinks that the reptilians have a base on the moon and that's how they read our brainwaves and stuff, and how, because it's like this giant like
Yeah.
I don't know,
It's a,
technology
yeah,
thing.
like an antenna,
Yeah,
right? Like it magnifies the energies or whatever. Yeah.
yeah,
I can see it. Like, I think a small part of all of us too, because we don't know enough about the moon, we all want to
mhm,
believe that there's a base on the moon of some kind. So it makes theories like this easier to believe in, right? Because you're
mhm.
just like, oh man, you'd be rad as a base on the moon. That'd be so cool.
Real talk though, there is some weirdo shit on the moon, right? Like going on right now, because China goes up there like every couple of years. And I remember like on my birthday, the only reason I remember this happening was because it was on my birthday. Because it's like every like on your birthday, you're like, what's the universe gonna give me for a birthday present? And you look in the news to see if anything crazy
It's
happened.
a Chinese
And
moon
then
base.
yeah, on my birthday, like I think it was 2018, they found green goo on the backside of the moon. And I was like, what? And I've talked about this probably on Outrage Factory, but they were basically like, yeah, they found green goo, but don't worry, science, whatever. It's totally normal. It's like space radiation hit dirt and made it turn green and whatever. And I was like, okay, whatever. I don't care enough. It's kind of disappointing that there's not
Is that
go.
what they found the tardigrades or whatever it was? Those little tiny creatures
Well, I think tardigrades are just kind of like everywhere,
everywhere. Okay, yeah.
but they would have
Right.
found those beforehand because I think they've known about tardigrades since like the 70s, isn't it?
That makes sense. I can't remember. Anyway,
Yeah.
back on track.
But anyways, yeah.
Where,
So
yeah.
that's just an example. Like the only reason I remember was the green goo. So they have been on the backside of the moon, rooting around and doing stuff. So I don't know. But actually, funnily enough, that does also coincide with Kubrick, because one of the reasons that everybody says Kubrick knows so much about the Illuminati and stuff was they hired him to film the moon landing because they were so impressed with that movie Doctor Strangelove, or How I
Love, yeah.
Learned
Yep.
to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Is that it?
Yeah. I think it's Doctor
Uh
Strangelove. I think that was the reason.
yeah, they were impressed with how he could recreate the cockpit of a bomber. So they're
Right.
like, well, this guy knows how to make a bomber. Obviously, he can make like
Space
a
shuttle or a
space
space
shuttle thingy
capsule.
majigger. So my personal theory on the moon landing is the moon landing happened, but the radiation broke all the footage, so they taped it again. So both sides are right. What do you think?
Where I don't actually know where I sit on the moon landing thing. I
Mhm.
mean, the thing that bothers me the most, and I know this is like one of the biggest pieces of the whole puzzle, is that we haven't been to the moon since 1969 or whatever it
I
was,
just
right?
told you China's at the moon
I
right
know I
now.
know you said China's at the moon, but like, can you trust what China says?
That's true.
Right? Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. Has anybody so it kind of blows the whole like the whole distance, the travel, what it takes, the return flight, all of those pieces. I've watched enough sci-fi movies to know that like sure it's theoretically possible to
Yeah.
send people out into space and then have them come back, and they've sent satellites up and then people have come back and then people, there's a space station in orbit. But like being in Earth's orbit and going to the moon are two very different distances,
Mhm.
right? And like, I don't know. And again, I want to believe that scientifically it's calculable to be able to do that. I just don't believe that 1969 was the time when the technology was at its best. 1969, a computer was as big as a room,
Yeah.
right? Are they sending people in a spaceship into space and communicating at that distance And like communications are spotty at best on Earth, right?
Mhm.
Like sometimes I don't get a cell signal, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of cement in my neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
Like how are we talking to somebody on the moon, right? When
Well,
there's
there's
a
less
fucking
cement in the
vacuum
'60s.
but there's a vacuum in between here and there.
Well, yeah,
We
that's
do
what I
know
think,
that,
like,
right?
how they had a live conversation with them while they're on the moon, I think that's
Yeah,
all fake. I still think they went to the moon, but I think, like, all the pictures, all the video, because even completely separate from that, if you go to space and back, you're just fucking blasted with cosmic radiation, and the film that was in the cameras would have been blasted with the radiation, and you wouldn't
totally.
be able to see it. And
So think about
also,
1969 camera
yeah,
technology. It's all fucking magnetic film, right?
exactly.
Like
Yeah.
that's not going to survive the what we know about the
Mhm.
atmosphere,
Yeah,
right? Let
exactly.
alone whatever the hell else is out there, right?
But as far as getting to the moon, to me, it's just one giant math equation because it's all like
Totally.
tele tele teletom
Telemetry.
yes, telemetry. Why
Yeah,
can't I say it this
I don't
word?
know.
And it's just like the angle you shoot a rocket,
Totally.
basically, because like it's not like you have to guide yourself. Because the thing about space is it's a vacuum. So once you're in there, wherever you're headed, that's where you're
That's where you're
headed.
going. Yeah,
So they would have had to do was shoot off in a certain direction from Earth and then just kind of hope it hits like the
a
orbit
general
of the
moon
moon. It
surface
gets
area. Yeah,
yeah. And the thing about planets and the moon and everything is they have gravity. So it's like even if you like fudge up a bit
you're
and
still
you're
going to get
kind
sucked
of in the
back
right
onto the
area, yeah, you're
surface. Yeah,
still going to get sucked around. So theoretically, it would actually be way easier to get back from the moon than it would be to go to the moon because you just have to hit Earth's atmosphere shallow enough to get
totally.
grabbed by the gravity, but not sucked straight in, but sucked
Yeah.
slowly in.
So that's one of the things about re-entry that's believable is like when you see where the capsules come back when they return from the moon,
Mhm.
they land in like weird places, like the middle of the Indian Ocean or like some random place, right? Like there's never like a planned location. It's not like they land right back at Cape Canaveral where they took off from.
Yeah.
They land in some random fucking location on Earth because it hits the atmosphere, it hits the orbit, it gets sucked around. It's that part's believable that they could return. The Earth is a
Mhm.
much bigger target. The margin for error in telemetry on the way back is the thing that bothers me is look at how, oh my god, I can't believe you got me talking about this. The rocket power to send the spaceship to the moon is enormous. You have that
Mhm.
giant cylinder, you have the two side cylinders, you have the breakaway cylinder, you have the pod. Like you're firing this huge rocket, and then what landed on the moon? This tiny little capsule with like a bunch of legs,
Yeah.
right? How the fuck did that get back to Earth? It has it's the one top nodule of the rocket that landed on the moon, and then they
Mhm.
just did the exact same thing back, but there's no like rocket to send it back from the moon to Earth.
Um,
I think it's of
my
the
guess is the moon has lower gravity.
it's lower gravity, I
So
guess, right?
it's
But
like
like,
plus the weight of that little capsule so much less because it's made out of like fucking
yeah, I suppose it's.
styrofoam and fucking aluminum wrapper.
I'm no mathemologist, so
Yeah,
I'm not going to be
because
able to calculate that.
the
But
thing
yeah,
about the moon is it doesn't have an atmosphere, so you
right.
don't have to have as
You
much
don't have that,
protective plating or
and
anything.
you don't have. There's no atmosphere. There's no gravity. There's
Mhm.
no less resistance. There's no wind that you have to factor for that kind of
Exactly.
stuff. So I can see that. It's just that it's such a small chunk of the
Yeah.
overall piece that ended up on the moon.
Yeah.
How did the fuck did that get back to Earth?
Yeah. So basically, for me, I think they landed on the moon because it's just two giant math equations. And like we've known math, like they
A
built the
really long time.
pyramids
Yeah,
with math. I don't know. It's possible for us to like figure that out. All the other
and
shit I think
astronaut
is bullshit.
theorists suggest.
Yeah. It would have been dope if when the astronauts came back, they're all fucking mutated like the Fantastic Four from the cosmic radiation.
That'd be pretty cool.
The other weird
I
thing
don't
is
want to
like,
be I wouldn't want to be stretchy. That's like the least cool
oh,
one.
really?
Oh
That'd
yeah,
be
I'd want
like
to
the
be like that
funnest one.
rock dude
The
would be pretty
Thing.
cool. The thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
Each
What were
I
they?
feel
There
like
was there
each
was
one of them would have been dope.
Well, there's fire, ice, rock, and stretchy. Was that the
No, there was
Fantastic Four? I can't remember. I'm not a comic book guy.
fire,
Yeah, the Human Torch.
invisibility.
Oh, invisibility, stretchy, and rock man.
Yeah. That's my favorite superhero group. Even though they got
haven't been
like
treated well over
screwed
the
out of
course
the
of
movies.
they
But
haven't been-
the MCU owns the rights now, so we might get a good movie. But
yeah.
let's get back on track, maybe.
Sorry,
So
I just yeah.
that's fine.
I just really empathize with what's his name, Ben something, the thing, Ben
Ben Grimm.
Ben Graham.
Yeah.
Just a cantankerous, grumpy lump of rock
Mhm.
man.
Yeah.
Feel that in my bones. Get back on track. Sorry.
As a fellow big-bodied man, I know exactly
You know
how
what I
you
mean?
feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
I'm gonna
feel
smash a bunch of shit because it
yeah,
feels like fun.
every time you accidentally break something with your strength, you're like, "Am I the thing
Sorry.
now?"
Yeah. Sorry, it's my rock hand. I can't do anything about it. It's just smashing. My bad.
Okay,
Gentle isn't
so
my strong suit.
now that we're done with David Icke's reptilian people, the second thing I said that what the Illuminati might be is like Saturn worship slash Moloch cult. And this is another thing where it's like I don't know how into Saturn worship I need to get. So do you know this is a good actually this is a really good
Anything about
litmus
Saturn
test.
worship? I don't know
Do
anything about
you
it.
okay. Let's go back. So basically I say that a lot, eh?
Well,
What's
yeah.
worse?
I've been trying to say. So one of the things I remember in the '90s, I had a girlfriend's dad tell me that when you say basically, it makes you sound stupid. And he's like,
Yeah.
the easiest way to get around that is instead of saying basically, there was another word that he used for it. Now, to make you sound smarter.
Rudimentarily.
No, no. Effectively. So
Effectively?
when you say effectively, it makes you sound smarter than when you
Oh.
say basically, it makes you and the person you're talking to, it dumbs everything down. If you change it
Mm.
to effectively this, it makes you sound smarter. It makes you sound more in control of the situation. And that's
You,
like stuck with me the entire time.
even if I go so effectively,
Effectively, you're an idiot, right? Like
yeah.
it still puts you in control. It puts you in the power.
Okay.
That's right.
So
Anyway,
down to the rudimentary terms of Saturn worship.
there we go. Yeah. Effectively,
What
Saturn
happened?
worship is.
Yeah. It's like this is also kind of curtails into the lizard people because I'm not exactly sure how this works, but the lizard people, like the reptilians, are also supposed to be part of the Saturn worship because the first deity they have proof of being worshipped, like I talked about it last episode, was this reptilian deity from like 70,000 years ago in a cave that they found. And like this theory is kind of annoying, like the whole Saturn worship theory, because it's kind of like they use it as a catch-all because they're saying Moloch and the Greek god Kronos and Nimrod from the Bible and all these other like deities and gods. They're saying they're all the same thing. So effectively what they're saying is it all kind of curtails into Saturn worship because they're just saying all of these different deities and gods are Saturn. But the thing it all traces back to, have you ever heard of the term the Golden Age?
Referring to what though? I've heard the multiple golden age
To
things.
the
So
Earth.
what, the
What they
1950s?
No, what they think happened was Saturn used to be a brown dwarf star before it turned into a planet. And
Okay.
it used to be to the north of Earth and it used to be like stuck in our orbit. And it covered Earth in this like purple haze. So it gave us sunshine all the time, like 24 hours, but it wasn't like sunshine the way we have it now. It wasn't as radioactive, but it was still light because it was a brown star. So it was a lot dimmer of a star, but it was closer. So that would have made all the plants and stuff grow year round. Like if you go to Alaska when they have 24 hours of sunshine,
Yep.
one of the ways that they make all these record breaking like pumpkins and stuff is they grow them in Alaska when it's
Oh,
sunny
right.
for
Where they
24
get like,
hours.
yeah.
So they get like lots more sun. So they have like a growth period. So you think of that and you think of the earth. And this is also where, God, so in the Bible, when it said God gave us day and night, what they're thinking was eventually, since Saturn was is now a planet, something happened when it was the brown dwarf and the planet, and they're saying that it got sucked out of Earth's orbit or whatever, maybe like a comet or something knocked it out, and then it kind of died as a star and turned into a planet. And when this happened, this is when we got night and day, because then the sun became our main star. And since the earth rotates, you get night and day. Whereas before, Saturn was like above the North Pole, and it would shine on the northern hemisphere at least all day, all day and night. So this is where Saturn worship comes from. They worship like they're like these primitive humans and stuff. They worship Saturn because they wanted him to come back and like basically give us effectively give us another golden age. And so Moloch in the Bible is supposed to be the Saturn thing. So I'm going to read you two Bible quotes. Are you down for that?
Man, I'm in.
Okay, so do you know what Gnosticism is?
I do know what Gnosticism is.
Okay,
So,
Gnosticism.
yeah, tell the people though, because they may not.
Okay, Gnosticism is the effective belief that like this is Old Testament, not New Testament. Like to me, I kind of look at Christianity as two separate religions with the New Testament and the Old Testament. That's an easy way to think about it, to wrap your mind around like the cognitive dissonance that you get from having like an angry, wrathful God to the God is everything. Jesus loves you, God. So in the Old Testament, what they're saying is that God is actually not God, and that he was like some other God created that God because they're like, I'm going to make this planet and I'm going to give it this overseer God stuff. But he was imperfect because he was made by a different God. And Lucifer actually was the good. This is Gnosticism. And Lucifer was the good guy because he gave humans knowledge. And that's where this comes in, because as Saturn was leaving, he kind of gave humans the knowledge of night and day, weights and measurements and stuff. So
things you need to like actively participate in regular life.
Exactly. So that Saturn is also Lucifer, or light bringer, and then that's kind of where the Illuminati comes in, because you're illuminating stuff. So does that make sense? How have I explained how Moloch is that type of illuminate? So this is all
one
like
side of the story.
Yeah, the Saturn worship / Moloch cult stuff.
Yeah.
And so I don't know exactly where all the kid eating stuff came in, but like there's that like medieval artist who like has that super famous painting of Saturn eating his own child. And that was because Saturn didn't want to lose his power by his own son dethroning him. So whenever a son was given to him, he would eat it to destroy it. And this might have something to do with the whole like celestial movement and stuff.
It does, yeah. Man. And all of that stuff predates biblical mentions of this stuff as well, right? So like you even look at the Hansel and Gretel, right? That's a child eating tale from early Germanic version of it, is like way predates the Bible. So
yeah, and all those Germanic stuff is like from paganism.
Yeah, totally. And paganism has many tales of eating children. So it's that's like, it's not like it's anything new. It's just adapted for the modern Christian era.
And Julius Caesar took all those pagan like rituals and stuff and made them. So he like took the like Christmas was actually Saturnalia, and they would worship all that stuff. And then he took it and he pretended it was Christian so he could get the pagans to convert and stuff, which actually coincidentally runs into our Eyes Wide Shut speech. But I just want to read the mentions of Moloch, because at the very beginning of the Bible, I think Leviticus is the third book or whatever, like this is when the Jewish people under Moses left Egypt and are in the desert wilderness. And this is, if when I say Leviticus, everybody should know Leviticus 22. That's the one that the right homophobic cites as like God saying don't have sex with other dudes. But the funny thing is, the verse directly before that is you shall not give any of your offspring to sacrifice them to Moloch, and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. Like, it's weird how there's that verse, and then directly after that is the one all the right talks about. So it's kind of funny because it's been on the tip of everybody's tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and then this other like sorry, Moloch has been mentioned in the Bible like in 8 different spots, because God basically, like, every chance he gets, he's like, when you guys go into the new lands, don't sacrifice your babies to Moloch like they
Don't do
do.
it.
Like,
Don't do it.
because Moloch was a Canaanite god, and they would like sacrifice their baby to him to get riches and stuff, which is Bohemian Grove, where they burn an effigy to Moloch the owl god. That's what they're doing. It's the same Moloch.
Oh,
So
okay.
Jeremiah 70, I just want to read this one because it's like badass
Relevant.
how much
It's
God is going to
badass.
punish these people. So Jeremiah 7, Jeremiah 7, verse 30. For the people of Judah have done evil in my sight, says the Lord. They have set their abominations in the house that is called by my name, defiling it. And they go on building the high place of Topeth, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to burn their sons and their daughters in the fire, which I did not command, nor did it come into my mind. Therefore, the days are surely coming, says the Lord, when it will no more be called Topeth, or the valley of the son of Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter, for they will bury in the Topeth until there is no more room. The corpses of this people will be food for the birds of the air and for the animals of the earth, and no one will frighten them away. And I will bring to an end sound of mirth and gladness, the voice of the bride and bridegroom in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem, for the land shall become a waste. Like, so apparently don't fucking
Don't
put
fucking do
your,
it. Don't
yeah.
do it. Don't do it.
And
Don't
another
turn this
thing,
into a wasteland. You want the
yeah,
wasteland? Do you want that? That's how you get a wasteland.
yeah, exactly. So put, like, in that I said put your sons and daughters in the fire, or you say put them through the fire and all this stuff. This is all reference to you give like your
Burning an
born.
effigy to Moloch.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
it's like, that's why I brought up the Saturn eating his own child thing.
Right.
And I don't know why that comes up. I guess I should have, but at the same time, it's like, it's only been 2 weeks since the last episode, so I don't want to like spend 6 months researching Saturn worship to just talk about how boring Eyes Wide Shut is.
So okay, so I have a connection for you. So here we go. This is
Yes.
something that I pulled out of Eyes Wide Shut. We can link it back to Saturn worship, and we can link it back to the Illuminati. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Dropping a bomb on you.
Okay.
I don't know if this is actually a thing, but I'm going for it right now.
Mhm.
So there's
Wait,
Tom
sorry, you
Cruise.
broke up there, Seth.
Oh, sorry. Are we good?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay. There's a very quick scene in Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah.
About partway through the movie where Tom Cruise is in. He's made it in. He's into the chamber. He's in the house. He's starting. He's like trying to find his way around. He's got his mask on. He's said the password. He's going in. He's been admitted. He's walking through this lobby, and there's a bunch of people walking through the lobby. And there's that scene where the guy in the kind of duck mask with the big lip, like, nods at him. So prior to when they're standing in, he sees him in this lobby, and they're in this lobby, and in the lobby, in the very center of the lobby, is an orrery. You know what an orrery is?
Nope.
So an orrery is like a model of the solar system.
Okay.
So if you look at that shot, and I was like, I kind of stopped it and I rewound it and I like went back to look at the shot.
Mm-hmm.
And in the image of the orrery, I couldn't specifically make it out, but I think Saturn's up front, like in the shot.
Oh.
So, and
nice.
I didn't know about Saturn worship or any of this stuff, but I'm pretty sure that that's what I'd have to go back and watch it again. So there's this weird scene where basically, I think it's Sidney Pollack's character. I can't remember the guy's name in the movie that is in that mask and recognizes that that's him and is like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And like kind of gives him the nod. And this whole scene takes place around this orrery. Right. And then he goes on, and then he sees all the fake sex happening and the boobies everywhere and stuff. But like, there's this split second where there's like this recognition thing happening around this model of the solar system sitting in the lobby of this sex palace ritualistic sex palace. So
Ooh.
so you're connecting. So here comes all these pieces like working their way back together. We're talking about this movie. We're talking about Stanley Kubrick. We're talking about the Illuminati, and all these pieces are kind of coming into play. So the sort of significance of the orrery is, and I'm quoting this website that it's like basically somebody's blog post. It was the only thing I could find on it. And there's the first sort of image of an orrery in popular art is 1776.
Ooh,
You remember that
there's
date?
another thread. The
So
beginning of
there's a
old school Bavarian Illuminati.
right. So there's a painting of this guy Joseph Wright, who I don't actually know, or Joseph Wright made the painting, and it is it's a scientist, a scholar, two children, and some other people looking at this orrery, and it's called Illuminatus.
Oh wow,
Oh, there's
that's
my tie-in
bonkers.
for the day. So
Nice.
there's my big tie-in for the day. So
Yeah.
so that's sort of what I was like, oh, interesting, because I saw that orrery and I like looked this up and I tried to
Mhm.
find Illuminati plus orrery, and I'm like looking for like why this is a significant piece. And so there's a painting, and so now here's the next part of it. The painting sits in a gallery with the actual orrery that was the model in that painting,
Oh shit.
and it's
Nice.
somewhere in Europe. But anyway, it's like, so you can see like the actual orrery that they're looking at. That's the model. That's
Mhm.
from 1776. That's featured in the painting at the place.
That's pretty dope, dude. Yeah, that's the one thing I like about conspiracies slash hate about conspiracies is you'll be looking into one and then you'll just notice this thread just shoots into this other one. You're like, I didn't know these two things were connected. And then it's just like you just feel like you're going crazy, like that guy who like takes the red rope or
The
whatever
red string, yeah, and
and
like
like
tying it all
makes
thing.
this huge thing. Yeah.
And like, and I don't know if there's any significance at all to those three pieces together, but it's
There,
like,
I think there is because the reason we wanted, like, the reason I told Jeff his homework was to watch Eyes Wide Shut, and I watched Eyes Wide Shut, was Isaac Weishaupt in his book One Grand Conspiracy to Rule Them All. He talks about Eyes Wide Shut being Kubrick's like warning
here the
letter to the
Illuminati, yeah,
population that the Illuminati exists, and um like Kubrick was always like, so like I said before, Kubrick was hired to videotape the moon landing, and then you can look into that. I think there's this documentary called Room 237 where
yeah, I've heard of that,
they
yeah,
go through The Shining and they pinpoint all the things that are referencing the moon landing and stuff.
right.
So Kubrick was doing this work for the Illuminati, and like before when I said that they got him to put in all these like Illuminati like little subliminal messages and stuff. So he was trying, so apparently he was trying to warn everybody about the Illuminati with Eyes Wide Shut, which is why we were talking about how he was supposedly murdered 6 days after the final cut was delivered. And the other rumor is that what he had as the orgy scenes and stuff was a lot longer and more in depth. And they're saying that the Illuminati kind of edited it and stuff and got rid of it.
Talk
So
about, I want to talk about the orgy scenes.
yeah, let's talk about the
Okay,
orgy scenes.
so like, I've done some sex in my time.
Have you?
I've done a couple of sexes, and I've never seen anybody fuck like that before in my life, nor have I. Like the
Oh,
like all the motion, like
I was gonna
it's so
say,
frenetic and
yeah.
weird, and like I don't know if that's part of it or if this is like an actual orgy thing. Anyone who out there who's been to an orgy, let me know if I've been doing it wrong this whole time. But like, there's
See,
so much action and like there's hammering. It's just like,
mm,
and I don't wanna- like it was ridiculous to me because like basically all you're seeing is
huh,
people watching other people like jackhammer each other, and I'm like,
yeah.
this can't be a real thing.
So one of the things I came up with was because the funny thing about this movie was it was super scandalous when it came out in
Yeah, it was
1999.
so scandalous.
And if you watch it now, you're just like, ho
This
hum,
is
this is boring.
yeah, this
Nothing
is pretty
shows
dumb.
press.
Yeah,
And what Jeff is talking about is something I noticed too, because I was like, wow, you can really tell when people aren't actually having sex in
actually fucking
movies.
in a movie. Yeah,
Because
totally.
if I were to go as hard as they were in that movie during an orgy scene, I'd be worried about breaking my dick because you
Oh
don't want to
yeah.
come back too
No.
far, have it come out, and then hit on the side and bend over or whatever. So in the movie Eyes Wide Shut, they're going back too far and then going too
Yeah.
fast. So they're trying to be like,
I'm glad
yeah,
you
yeah,
noticed it
yeah.
too. Cause
Oh
like
yeah.
I was starting to get like self-conscious. I'm like, man, I have bad rhythm. Am I just like terrible at sex? Like,
My
should I be
back
hammering
isn't
harder?
one giant elastic band, so I can't do it
Yeah.
like that.
I have to call my wife down. I'm like, is this how you want me to do this? Is this like, is
Yeah.
this what you desire? Can you tell me this, please?
Is
Communicate with me.
everybody's dick longer than
Yes,
mine
yeah,
and it doesn't
yeah,
fall
totally.
out?
I'm gonna go ahead and assume everyone's dick is longer than mine, but yeah, yeah, it's one of those things. Like I just like watching it. It's ridiculous, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I know that it's a movie, so it's not actual sex. I understand. I get that.
Yeah.
It's just like the sheer like veracity of the sexual
Mhm.
interactions is like even there's even a scene where it's like a woman on a woman. They're wearing masks. What the fuck is going on there? So there's like a woman.
Exactly.
There's a woman on a table like laying backwards and another woman straddling her, and they're both like they're going down on one another, but they're
Mhm.
both wearing masks. So like,
Yeah.
how the fuck does that work? So and I know that like it's simulated sex in movies. I fucking totally understand that. So don't at me on
Yeah.
that in that regard. But like just the way that it was presented was like almost childish and immature,
Mhm.
right? And I'm like,
And the and the reason I'm with you and that got me like made me feel like well, I was like that's so weird is cuz Kubrick is a master
he's a
filmmaker
right, and
and
you read that constantly that he's his attention to
yeah,
detail is everything, and the
and
sex scenes are
nothing was
so
a mistake. Like
juvenile. Yeah,
he
yeah, nothing was
wouldn't
insane.
have
Yeah,
had them still wearing
he
their
wouldn't have
mask
done
by
that.
mistake. So it could be some
So
weird symbolism,
yeah,
whatever.
but there was the whole scene, like you know that scene where they're the priest has the censer and he's like blessing the women before they
Yeah.
get up and take a man, and they do that like weird mask kiss thing across
Mhm.
one another. So there
Yeah.
was some of that as well, but it looked like they were really going to town on each other's junk and like wearing a
Yeah.
mask. So I'm like, I don't know. So there were like I had a lot of questions about that. Like if Kubrick is, like you said, this master of detail and this master of like storytelling and this master and every shot is like meticulously calculated, why do we have these ridiculous, funny juvenile sex scenes in this movie?
Yeah, because and Eyes Wide Shut, I think has the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest shot movie because it shot over 15 months continuously.
Yeah.
And he like since Kubrick was so afraid of flying, they basically built the New York Greenwich Village or whatever in
Yeah.
Europe because this was all shot in
Yeah, so
Europe.
he didn't have to, yeah, go back and
Yeah,
forth.
so it's like he goes through all this effort and then he has two girls like eating each other out with a mask. You're like, wait, what?
Like, why would you
So
do that? Yeah,
yeah,
it didn't. It was sort of incongruous for it. So I could. So that lends itself to the theory that he was killed, and they went back and they edited the scenes.
hmm
So there's that part of it as well. Like I don't know,
yeah, they
or it
could
was
have.
done for the censors for Hollywood in 1999. Who the
Yeah,
fuck
because
knows? Like make
another
the
thing.
scenes more comical. Make the
Yeah,
ladies wearing masks going down on one another.
okay, I'm gonna read something from a. So this is kind of funny because I'm gonna read something from a blog post I found, but I feel like I listened to Isaac's book when he was talking about it, and I think this blog kind of plagiarized Isaac. So it's like I'm gonna read it, and then it's kind of like I'm just talking about Isaac's book because I think this is from his book. So it's kind of I don't know. It's kind of funny to me.
Go to it. Let's see what happens. Let's see
Okay.
what comes.
So this is them talking about Eyes Wide Shut, which is like how me and Jeff were saying everybody's like full on like sucking Kubrick's dick on how good of a movie maker he was. Just listen to this. The film is full of puzzles, riddles, and games, symbols helping to reveal the truths of the unconscious mind. This large symbolic dimension helping foster emotional involvement. The master director's swan song of unconscious spiritual testament, which meditates on such ontological questions as life and death, as well as on cinema viewed as a visual art at the crossroads between concreteness and abstraction. Eyes Wide Shut has gained a reputation as the unfinished Kubrick film, despite its creator hanging on just long enough to oversee the final cut. He died only 6 days after. Some believe Kubrick was murdered because the film was essentially an expose of the secret world of sex orgies in the upper echelons of the old boys networks, where billionaires, bankers, media moguls, and royalty alike engage in anything from gay sex and pedophilia to the murder of children, and that the film was recut as a form of damage control before it was eventually released. The most famous version has it that he used Eyes Wide Shut to rat on the Illuminati, who retaliated by having him killed on the 7th of March, 1999, 666 days before the 1st of January 2001, a gruesome nod to his most famous film. In scenes that Warner Brothers now refuse to release, the director apparently expounded at some length on the existence of actual cults. The theory goes that to protect the nefarious leaders, Warner Brothers quietly had the picture re edited and now denies this ever happened. Citing contractual obligations to deliver an R rating, Warner Brothers digitally altered the orgy for the American release, blocking out graphic sexuality by inserting additional figures to obscure the view, avoiding an adults only NC-17 rating that limited distribution. Conspiracy theorists argue that Kubrick had never been shy about ratings. A Clockwork Orange was originally given an X rating. Yeah, so that's what people are saying about fucking Kubrick's movies.
So one of the so one of the things that strikes me just about what you said there, and like the whole from like a movie editing and shooting and reshooting perspective, once
Mhm.
Kubrick's dead after the final cut, the
Yeah,
movie company can do whatever the hell they want with the footage, right?
yeah,
The It would be extremely easy in the orgy scenes in that whole section to reshoot that and recast that because there aren't any actual people in it. The
yeah.
actors are there, they're in it, they're there, but they're all robed, they're all masked. How convenient is that for cutting and reshooting? Like
Mhm.
for if you're looking at it from like a pure conspiracy theorist
Yeah,
bent, literally you could do anything with that by inserting some new shots of people in fucking rows because there's no actual actor face in any of those
mhm.
scenes, right? So
Yeah. And another thing too is I guess maybe if we saw this unedited version, there'd be more ham-fisted Illuminati symbolism. But
is fisted in this.
let's go through the Illuminati symbolism that made it through. Do you want to
Okay,
do that?
yeah, let's do that. So
Okay,
I didn't
so
actually find any other than, so if you don't mind,
yeah.
I just like there's more of a generic overtone of Illuminati, and it's in the rituals and in the
Hmm.
like in those pieces. I didn't really find any symbolism, and I fucking looked, but like most of the stuff that you see is the music is the piano, the do the like that plays through the whole entire movie. It's that sort of maybe that reinforcing piece that you're talking
Yeah.
about with the Illuminati. So that there was that piece where it's like the same fucking piano melody the entire movie through. The
Hmm.
lights are always in the same position. There's you see this light in the house that's kind of like a star shape.
Yeah.
Um, there's that. There's the only other things that I noted were like the opulent gold on everything. Like there's a
Hmm.
gold tissue box on the back of the toilet when there's the during the death scene, or the overdose scene. There's
Yeah.
like all these gold accoutrements all over
Hmm.
the various places where they live and stuff. And then the only other thing that I saw that might have some kind of significance is there's a candle holder that's like a triangle, like a pyramid shaped it has 8 candles and it's in a pyramid shape that keeps
Oh
popping up
yeah.
throughout the movie. Other than that, I didn't really I felt like the Illuminati reference was the whole thing. There wasn't any
Yeah.
specific symbolism in it, so other
Hmm.
than the entirety of the movie. Anyway, go ahead. So you go ahead and now let's hear what you found
Okay,
interesting.
the one like these I cheated and I got these out of
I
like
figured you did, so that's why I wanted
these
to
are
hear it.
from like Isaac Weishaupt's book. But one thing I noticed was like, remember how there was like there was always orange light and blue light in the movie,
Yes,
and
always.
like there was a point where Cruz was always lit with an orange light and behind him was blue. And then when he kind of he went after he went to the orgy scene, there's a scene where he's half blue and half orange. And then when he goes into his wife's bed and sees the mass on the pillow, he's all
Blue,
blue and
all
he just
blue.
starts bawling and he's like, I'll
Yeah,
tell you everything. And then at the end, when they're at the like toy store, he's orange again.
yeah.
So I think that might be like some weird nod to his journey as a character, but that's not really necessarily Illuminati imagery. That's just,
Illumination imagery.
hey, I mean, that could be it all by itself. So I watched this before I looked at the notes to see what it was, and I knew through what I said how Julius Caesar retook Saturnalia, which is now Christmas. I knew that's why all these Christmas trees were in there.
Right.
And a
Good.
funny side thought, I was like, is Eyes Wide Shut a Christmas movie?
Oh, yeah, totally. Right. Does it go into the pantheon with Die Hard
Yeah,
and A Christmas Story and Groundhog Day? No, I'm just kidding. But
because
yeah,
there's Christmas trees in
but you're
like
right though.
every shot.
So when he goes with that hooker into her house, there's a Christmas tree in there in
Yeah.
her house as well, right? And there's a Christmas tree at the party, and there's a Christmas tree
Hmm.
in his house, and there's the only place where there wasn't a Christmas tree was the sex house.
Ooh.
No Christmas tree in the sex house.
Okay.
But every other
Hmm.
residence that was visited had a Christmas tree in it.
Okay. So before I get into my cheat sheet of what was actually in the movie, I just want to read why Christmas is like the Saturnalia or whatever. So Christmas was Roman Saturnalia, which is a celebration of the introduction of times, weights, and measurements, like I was saying before, when Saturn left, and then like we got days and stuff, which was brought forth by the destruction of the Golden Age. More human sacrifices from December 17th to 23rd. So like they do human sacrifices to celebrate this. And there's also the reversal of roles where masters would feed their slaves, and or in modern days like at work Christmas parties, one thing that I've seen is like your boss will go around with a drink tray and like give people eggnog, and that's kind of like the reverse of roles and stuff, which is, I mean, it's a stretch. I know it's
It
a
is a bit of a
stretch,
stretch,
but
yeah. I don't give my staff eggnog.
you should start.
Maybe I will. Maybe that's something I'll note down. Yeah.
And then Christmas was changed to December 20. Like, yeah, you like you might have just heard me read those days, December
Yeah.
17th to 23rd, and been like, but Christmas isn't the 23rd.
Right.
Actually, Christmas was changed to December 25th because Julius Caesar resynced the calendar with the sun that had the winter solstice occurring on December 25th in an attempt to convert pagans to Christianity.
For that many
So
times.
what
And there's
happened was they kept Christmas on the 25th, but they rejigged it so now the solstice happens on
on the
the
21st.
21st. Yeah.
21st. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and then there's that whole there's a complete other theory that like Jesus was born in, so it's the 25th is supposed to be like Jesus's birthday effectively, right?
Mhm.
That's the whole jammy behind it. But then
Yeah.
there's like actual physical and scientific evidence that Jesus was born in the summer.
Oh.
That's a whole other
Yeah.
ball of wax, but Jesus was born in like July, August, like you
Yeah.
and I.
Oh, nice. And one of the things that they say, like the birth of Jesus was on the 25th, that's like the birth of the sun, because
Yeah.
for the summer solstice, there's 3 days where the sun goes down below, and they're the shortest days of the year or whatever. And then,
Winter solstice. But
yeah,
yeah,
so winter solstice is the time when they're the three
21st
shortest
is the
days of the year.
shortest. The 21st
And
of December is
then,
the shortest day of the year. That's when there's like the limited amount of sunlight
yeah, and then like the sun goes down for 3 days, and then it starts like like going, the
on the
days
opposite
get
direction.
longer and stuff, and that's
But that's
kind of
only
like,
that's only above the equator. That's the problem, right?
mhm,
Like that the
yeah,
whole thing is that only exists in the parallels above the equator.
yeah. So it's like what these theories that, you can poke holes and stuff, whatever.
Totally.
And then trees were decorated with silver and gold and worshipped as an idol, and this was because like Moloch or Nimrod or Saturn, like you put lights on your Christmas tree so Nimrod could find your
Yeah.
house and see that you're worshiping him and bless you. So that's how Christmas came. And then so the actual things that happened in the movie that from my cheat sheet are, the orgy scene was filmed at Mentmore Towers in Somerset, England, which is a house that was built for the Rothschild family in the 1850s. And there are pictures circulating on the internet from like a 1970s um party that the Rothschilds had where people were wearing masks and stuff. But the weird thing was, one of the tables was decorated with like shattered porcelain doll faces, which is like
Gross.
the creepiest thing I
That's
can
super
think of,
creepy. Yeah, that's mega creepy.
which could be why Tom Cruise's mask was designed to look kind of like a
Like a
shattered
child.
porcelain doll face.
Yeah. I
And
noticed too
then,
his mask was very childlike too. Like it
yeah.
was very, yeah.
And so they could have been like he was the whole sacrifice for the Moloch thing. And then the other things that were happening was there's like Alice the mom and Helena the daughter. There's all these weird shots of like Alice putting on pit stick
Yeah.
and like brushing Helena's hair and stuff. And that's sort of like maybe the grooming aspect of like the Illuminati grooming children. And then
Just a note on that really quickly. There's
yeah.
a scene where she pees and then goes to wash her hands, but only rinses them under water and then like doesn't put any soap on. It's gross.
Yeah, and she
all.
had her glasses on to pee, and then as soon
Yeah,
as she's done peeing, she took them
he took them
off.
off. I'm like, what do you need to
Yeah.
see? Yeah, I don't know. There's some weird stuff going on there.
And the funny thing was, it was like they were super rich, right? Like
Yeah.
Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise in the movie. They're super rich. They're this up, like he's a doctor, and they're just like he walks into the room and she's peeing and stuff. I was like, rich people don't act like that, do they? Maybe they do.
So I've been in a couple of relationships, and I've had one relationship that was an open door pee policy,
Mm.
and I have my current relationship is a very closed door pee policy.
Yeah.
Oh,
My current relationship is a closed door pee bathroom policy, mostly because when I go to the bathroom, it stinks. And because, full disclosure, TMI, when you have gout like I do, your pee stinks extra bad because you have extra uric acid in your bloodstream. So the
we're very
pee
fortunate.
smell is more pee smelly. So
Did not
Andrea
know
doesn't
that.
like to be in there when I'm peeing
Yeah.
because
Well,
she says
I
it
mean,
stinks.
I played hockey and I grew up in a fairly European centric household, and we
Yeah.
just go when you need to go, and doors are open, and maybe they're open and maybe they're closed. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, my wife not so much. So
Yeah.
it's very
Well,
very closed and very, yeah, and like I respect that. But it's if you're asking how rich people act, I don't even know if it's like a rich poor thing. I mean, neither my wife or I
that's true.
are particularly rich or didn't come from rich families, right? And like we close the doors to pee. Privacy is important. So I mean, I don't know if it's rich or if it's a rich or poor thing. I'm thinking of it more from a symbolism perspective,
Yeah.
of the like trying to portray how open their relationship is, if you want to put it that way,
Mm.
right? And like how it's this such an open relationship that they'll
Yeah.
pee in beside one another while they're getting ready. They'll groom together, but they won't talk about their longing or their yearning or their feeling of being trapped or their need for sexual adventure, right? Like
Hmm.
it's, I don't know, drawn
Yeah.
conclusions.
Maybe I've been fully indoctrinated by the Illuminati to just assume there's differences between classes and that
Yeah.
rich people are just somehow more classy than us and they wouldn't do that sort of thing.
There is a shot
That could also be it.
during the overdose scene where you do see a bidet. So
Oh,
rich people do have bidets. I don't think we've ever had a bidet. I've like I saw one. I didn't know what it was when I first knew it. My dad was a plumber, so you think I would know these things.
yeah.
The hell is that? Why is there a little tiny sink next to the toilet? That's weird. Should I
So,
drink out of this? Is it a water
yeah,
fountain? What's happening?
in the movie, there's two parties in the movie, actually, which we should have said a long
Oh
time
yeah.
ago. But there's the rich person house party where Jeff was talking about the bathroom where a girl was, she overdosed on heroin and
Heroin.
cocaine,
Yeah,
which was
speedball.
pretty
Yeah.
aggressive drug use for rich people.
That was,
I
yeah,
also
it was,
thought
but she was a hooker though, so you have to remember that
that's
it's like
true.
again they're trying to show the socioeconomic difference between a sex
Hmm.
worker and the rich people. Oh, she took one of those speedballs, whatever the people take,
Which,
right? Like he was very dismissive of that whole thing, right?
yeah, well, it's like heroin and cocaine
Heroin
use
and
is
yeah,
just
it's
like,
pretty. That's a lot of
like
hard
that's
drugs in
I
one
always
go.
assumed that speedballs were for like turbo junkies where either heroin and
But
cocaine
see,
wasn't enough, so they had to mix the two, not like
again, so that's a
high-end
perception that we have.
prostitutes.
No, but that's a perception that we have that like that somehow drugs
That's true.
are socioeconomic, or somehow
Hmm.
there's rich drugs and poor drugs. Like drugs are drugs, man. They're just taken in different quantities by different
Yeah.
people at different times. I mean, who can afford what is inconsequential, right? So that's
Yeah.
like she's a highly paid hooker at a very rich people party.
Hmm.
So her taking a speedball is not out of the question. That's a
Yeah.
realm of possibility, right? She's making enough money that night to like be able to afford that shit.
Yeah. So at this house party, what's the main character's name? What's
Jack, Bill Harford.
Yeah. Oh, and I also read Harford was supposed to be like supposed to represent Harrison Ford because
Oh wait, really?
Kubrick wanted Tom Cruise to be like the most white bread possible person he could, and Kubrick thought that was Harrison Ford, which
Oh my god,
I don't know why
that's
he'd want
weird.
to kick Harrison Ford in the dick like that, but that's pretty rude to say Harrison Ford is the most white bread person ever. I mean, Han Solo and Indiana Jones, it's not very white bread to me.
Deanna.
So at that party where, fuck, what
Yeah,
was his name?
Harford, Bill
Bill
Harford.
Harford. Yeah. Bill, the doctor, meets his old friend from medical school. What was his name? Was his name Nick or Rick?
Nightingale,
Yeah.
the
Was it?
piano player. Nick. It was
Yes.
Nick Nightingale.
So Nick Nightingale is playing at the house party, and behind him is the 8-pointed star of Venus.
Yes.
And on the wall beside him, it looks
Also,
like there's like lights and there's stars,
it's the
but they're
same.
all
It's the same star.
pentagrams.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
pentagram stars. Yeah.
So that's symbolism that was in the movie. Um, Rainbows apparently are another form of Moloch. It's like where you go through the fire and then you get your blessings. So the rainbow and then the pot of gold is like the symbol of going through the fire and getting your blessings or your riches. And so Tom Cruise gets his costume from the rainbow costume shop and then it shows like the logo of the rainbow or whatever. So
I
it's
didn't know
kind
that
of
about the
like,
rainbows.
sorry?
I didn't know that about the
Oh,
rainbows.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't have either until I read this or heard listened to this
Yeah.
book.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so like you could see the whole thing of him going to see this like the costume store operator in the middle of the night and convincing him to lend him a costume and paying an exorbitant amount of money because he woke him up in the middle of the night is kind of like his trial to do the rainbow. And then at the house party, Tom Cruise was talking to these two women and they're like flirting with stuff and they're like, come with us. And he's like, where are you guys taking me? And they go to where the rainbow ends, which is
That's right. Oh shit! I didn't realize I said that. Yeah.
just a bonkers thing to say. I would have been like, wait, what the fuck do you mean?
Okay,
So
I
yeah,
didn't even
that's,
catch that.
yeah. And then, yeah, there's all the Christmas trees you see. And like the funny thing about like how we were talking about this the disparity between the rich and the poor is when he goes to the hooker's house, her Christmas tree is dilapidated and super
Yes.
shitty. And
Tiny
then
and
Tom Cruise's and all the rich people's
they're
Christmas
big and
trees are
opulent and
super nice.
covered.
Oh, and another thing at the end of the movie, Tom Cruise goes back to his house after he's threatened by everybody and he turns off the lights for his Christmas tree in his house.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that was also maybe symbolism of him
Right
turning
before
his
he
back on the whole Illuminati thing.
That's right before he goes in and sees the mask on the bed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's like, I think he like, because the doctor friend warned him about it and was like, you got to get out of here. Stop doing this. Don't look into it. And then he just goes and starts crying and tells his wife everything.
Okay. So there's two things I want to hit on there that are maybe plot based and have nothing really
Yeah.
to do with the Illuminati, etc. But earlier in the movie, Nicole Kidman's character recounts the dream, which is exactly what happened to Tom Cruise
Mhm.
at the party,
Yeah.
which I didn't understand that. And then at the end, he's admitting it all to her, but he's basically what telling her that same story that she had the dream about. And the
Yeah.
doctor, and then also the doctor friend, Sidney Pollock's character, who I can't remember his name in the movie, um, says, "What if this was all a big elaborate hoax to trick you into thinking that?" I didn't understand that part either, so I'm not sure what I missed there.
Yeah. I think that was
Why would he?
just
Why would he say that it's a big elaborate hoax? I don't understand that part.
because he was
what if I
trying
told you?
to like get Tom
Downplay
Cruise
it?
to not look into it and be like,
Oh
you don't
yeah,
have to
okay.
worry about
You have to
this.
worry
This
about
was
it.
a joke.
Yeah,
And
okay.
then Tom Cruise was like, then he was like,
On the
well, if
Dale
it's all
Show,
a
Jeff
joke.
doesn't understand. Jeff doesn't understand easy plot points.
And then like on then Cruise is like, yeah, but if it was a joke, why is this girl dead or whatever? Because
Yeah,
he found the body and
the newspaper thing, and he went to go
Mhm.
see her and everything, and it was the same girl who took the speedball earlier in the movie.
Yeah. And then I didn't know, was it supposed to be the same girl as the hooker? Because the whole
That's her.
hooker,
It was a no. It
no,
was
the
the
hooker that he went to her house, Domino or whatever.
oh no, not it wasn't Domino. So
Okay.
Domino exited the thing. That was Mandy. Because remember he
Mhm.
said at the beginning
Yeah.
it was Mandy, Mandy, wake up, talk to me. And then it was Amanda Curran who died in the overdose.
Yeah.
So that's Mandy, right? So it was Mandy at the
Mhm.
end, and it was Mandy that was helping him in the sex ritual part
Yeah.
as
She
well.
like
It
took him
wasn't
out and
Domino,
got
it was
him out and
Mandy.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole Domino thing just threw me for
It
a
was like
loop because it was there
side
for no
plot.
reason.
So
Yeah.
it was it that felt weird to me, and especially that whole scene where she's like Domino tested her roommate was like she tested for HIV. That whole scene was super weird too, because Tom Cruise walks in and immediately starts feeling up her roommate, his that
Yeah.
he's never met before, and then she's like, "Wait, before we go any further, like there was some weird unspoken plot for him to fuck her at some point," and
Well, I
then
think
she's
she
like,
was also a
yeah,
prostitute.
she was. Yeah, I
Yeah.
assume so. And then she was like, "Well, just before we do anything, Domino has HIV. She's probably not coming back." And then that was the end of that entire plot point, and it made no sense why he would return there. I guess it was like, "Oh, I narrowly missed getting HIV because I didn't actually fuck this prostitute." I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
That part sat weird with me too.
I thought maybe that was going to be like, I was hoping that Tom Cruise was going to throw out that, hey, this prostitute had HIV. So all
Right?
you rich fucks at the orgy also
They're
now
all
have
gonna get it. Yeah,
HIV. Like I
totally. I
thought it was going to
guess.
be something like that
So
or,
just contextually, just to fill in the gaps for people who may have not seen the movie, in 1999 was kind of like the end of the peak of the AIDS epidemic.
Mhm.
And then so it's like or the AIDS and HIV thing, it was more talk it was the end of the AIDS epidemic and more of the conversation shifting to HIV as the virus versus AIDS being the symptoms.
Yeah, that's
So
when the
that's where that
whole
conversation kind of came
full
to.
blown AIDS HIV positive
Correct.
thing
Yeah.
happened.
The differentiation between the two is
Mhm.
starting to become more socially talked about. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's
Nothing
all I
further than
really
that.
got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I was kind of disappointed with this movie because I thought it was going to be rife with symbolism. I thought there's going to be like the hand symbols, like apparently the devil horns that people make like this at rock concert. The two horns is for Moloch because Moloch was like the Minotaur. Oh, we should have mentioned this. Moloch is like the Minotaur from in the maze or whatever. So apparently when you make these horns, it's a sign for it's a sign for the Moloch part of the Illuminati, like not Ike's reptilian
there's
Illuminati, but the other one.
there's a lot around this as a symbol. It's super weird because like it's the American Sign Language for "I love you,"
Oh.
right? So which is you throwing up the at the rock concert is "I love you." You're saying "I love you" to the people on stage, right?
Oh.
So
I thought it started as
it's
devil horns
it's this and it's
because
this is "I love you"
yeah, was
in
this
American Sign Language.
anything?
So no, but there's also like there's also the it's 666 like the number of the beast, right? And
Yeah.
it's also the devil, and there's like all these like
And there's
there's all these
also
other
like this is six
yeah 666
six.
yeah
So if I guess terrible for people who are just listening to this, but the devil horns is when you put your index and pinky finger up and put your thumb over the
right.
middle
There's differences
and
between these and
ring
these because
finger.
there's also like 666 this way as
Yeah,
well with the thumb out, but the thumb over is the
yeah.
sign language
And
piece.
then the sign where I said another Illuminati hand symbol is the OK
Okay,
symbol,
so man.
which could be why they tried to make it a white power symbol to like as like a I guess like a smoke screen so people wouldn't know that. And then like when you put your finger over your eye like this, that's also supposed to be the eye of the Illuminati
Really?
that people point out. So I was
Yeah,
hoping
no,
all of this stuff would be in there. And then
yeah, and. I think there
sorry.
was a more it was more generalized. The
Yeah.
The whole it was more like a general like this is what the Illuminati does. We do
Mm-hmm.
sex parties, and this is the
And
mild version of it.
and I think if you watch this in '99, it was a lot bigger of a
Oh
deal
my
than it
god,
is
it was such
now.
a big deal. I remember people talking about it because that would have been in like I guess second or third year university at the time, and I
Mm-hmm.
remember just people like, "You got to see this movie. It's Kubrick's a masterpiece. It's so crazy." There's
Yeah.
like it was taboo to talk about it at the time, right? People
Mm-hmm.
were like, did
Oh, you just cut out.
oh, sorry.
Super whispers. Oh, now you're
Yeah.
back.
No, I was just whispering. I was like, the people were
Yeah.
whispering, like, did you see that orgy movie? Did you see
Yeah.
it?
Like, did you
Tom
see it?
Cruise? You see
Kubrick's
Nicole
movie.
Kidman's butt? And it was like this, like this taboo thing. Like no one had
Yeah.
ever really. That was the first time in the mainstream that you saw that there were weird cloaked ritualistic sex orgies. So you read
Yeah.
about them in like art history class, and you read about them in like in history, and like there's little exposure to it, right? So
Yeah.
to see it in the mainstream, like to be able to just go to a movie theater and watch it and be like, whoa, that's fucking weird, right? Like people do
Yeah. And
that
this is
stuff.
also pre Janet Jackson at the Super Bowl because that was 2004. I just had
Oh,
to look
well
that up.
before that, yeah,
Yeah. So it's like just think where society was back then.
yeah.
And I feel like that was a bigger deal because now it's like there's a show on Netflix called Sabrina the Teenage Witch where it's like it's got all this like Satanism and stuff in there. And I feel like you could see an orgy scene like this in that show and you just be like, well, yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
That's what
These things
rich people
happen.
do. And it's like,
That's how they roll.
yeah,
Yeah.
on the other part, now if you saw a movie that had this, you wouldn't be like, wow, this is a secret society cult doing it. It'd be like, well, why would you be rich if you couldn't have orgies? What's the point of putting all that effort into getting rich? I mean, what are you gonna do?
No, man. Like
Buy yeah. Go
even if
ahead,
I
sorry.
had a bunch of money, I don't think I'd want to have an orgy. I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm old. I don't know. But they're all
Yeah,
old in that
but
movie.
we're talking turbo rich, like
So I'm never gonna taste that lifestyle, so I don't really know what it's like.
sorry, Jeff, you're never gonna be turbo old money rich.
And all my
Partially
hopes are
because I
dashed.
don't think you want to be that rich. Because most
Uh,
people would get like enough to buy one or two houses and be like, all right, it's not worth this squeeze to get more juice.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like, yeah. I don't live that lifestyle, so it doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense to me.
I mean, I guess if you got accidentally got that rich, like you invent something and then it just blows up and you just get a whole bunch of money, then yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think I think I'm like not I'm not sex orgy costume turbo rich.
Maybe that's why we're not rich because we're not orgy people.
We're not in that
Maybe,
mindset. We need
maybe
to flip that script.
when we were at Thompson Rivers University, there was Illuminati agents kind of gauging us to see how sexually open we were to mass orgies, and we kind of gave off the wrong clues by being wholesome boys who aren't into Satan worship, and they're like, those
No,
guys will never be rich.
I was definitely into Satan worship around that time. I I
Oh, really?
wasn't much into being turbo rich though. So that was, you know.
Hmm. Let's talk about your Satan worship. Are you over that?
No, I mean, I dabbled. I read like the Anton LaVey books and was like
Oh,
kind of,
like
I was like
reading
interested in that
about
stuff.
it and having an interest in it is
Oh, no,
different than
well,
being
and it
like,
was like,
I'm a Satanist.
I was into rock and roll and I was like, this is
Yeah.
cool. I want to know what this is about
Hmm.
and figure out what the Church of Satan is. And then I started reading about it and I'm like, oh, it's basically a religion like any other religions. It's just
Yeah.
worshiping a different
That
deity.
one's funny because it's like that, like the Church of Satan, Satanism isn't really the Christianity Satan. That's
Uh,
just like
it's its own
people
separate
are their
religion.
own God
Yeah.
and they have to like serve themselves first so that they can become their own gods. Like it isn't like
It's not like
with God
it's
sent
not reverse
Lucifer and all that
Christianity,
stuff.
basically.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Which I
It's
always thought it
yeah.
was.
So that's what I mean, you go into it with that mindset. You're like, I wonder if this is like the opposite of Christian, being a Christian.
Mhm.
And you read it and you're like, this is not what I expected. So
Yeah, like, oh, they're worshiping like the fallen angel Lucifer, but they're not.
it's not that at all.
No,
Yeah, it's about self-reliance and
it's
I don't know,
just
it's interesting stuff. But
it's basically self-help.
self-help, yeah. It's
Yeah, it's like
so you know, and you could there I remember like there was in the book there was like you could write a letter and apply to be in the Church of Satan. And I wrote a letter and I never sent it.
ooh,
So
See,
yeah,
this
it
is
was some address in
why.
California, and I was like gonna send that in and be like, oh cool,
Yeah.
I'll just be a member of the Church of Satan. And then I was like, I
Hmm.
wrote the letter, I typed it up, I like hand wrote the envelope, and I just never sent it. So
Yeah. And you were saying you were into see, if you would have sent that letter, maybe you would have been into like turbo rich
I would have been
orgies.
turbo rich orgy guy at this point. And then you
Yeah.
and I would never speak again until you met me at a nightclub one night and we were like, hey, my old buddy Dale from college.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got to go to this secret party later. Tell me what the password is. I'm not going to tell you what the password is. No, just tell me what the password is. I want to come to this weird sex party.
Oh yeah, I forget.
No,
I guess
Dale,
we
you can't
forgot to
come.
say Nick Valentine told Tom Cruise's
Nightingale.
character, Nick Nightingale. What did I say?
So Nick Valentine.
Okay.
So yeah, Tom Cruise intercepted the password when Nick Nightingale was on the phone. What was
Yeah.
it?
Oh
It
yeah,
was
because he wrote it on a napkin that he saw it.
Persephone? No, that wasn't it. It was something
No, it was
else.
something else. I can't remember.
Or with a P. I forget. Anyway, it was interesting.
Yeah, Paradigm or something maybe. I don't know.
Showed up in a cab, Tom Cruise.
Peanut.
And
It was
everyone
a
came in
penis.
limos.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, so this was all a big podcast to tell you that to not bother watching Eyes Wide Shut because it's very boring. The orgy scene doesn't happen till an hour and 20 minutes into the movie. And another thing I was going to say is they said that they edited this movie and edited all the bad scenes out. How long would that movie have been? Because this one was like an hour and
But this
like,
was 2 hours and 35 minutes.
yeah, like how long would the uncut version have been? Like Snyder Justice League long?
So I know you
4 hour
said that you broke the movie
opus?
down into like 4 watching sections, and I like
Yeah.
watched the whole thing in one go. I
Oh my
didn't know.
god.
I actually took like a 10-minute break to go say goodnight to my son and be
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry. Good
Daddy's
night. I love
bringing some
you.
real weird energy to the good night
Bring us,
gift.
yeah, right. And why is your hood up? No reason.
Why are
Just
you saying Latin backwards?
yeah, totally. Hey Arlie, can I come to your room? The password is Fidelio. It's Fidelio. That's what it is.
Oh, did you just look it up?
I
What
looked it
was
up.
it?
Yeah, it's Fidelio.
Nice.
Yeah, which is Latin for
Nice.
fidelity or so it's
Hmm.
ironic.
There you go.
I thought he said Fidelia. That's what I thought it was a PH, but it was
Mm.
Fidelio.
Fidelio.
That's
Yeah.
ridiculous when you say it out loud.
I feel like did we cover everything for the
I believe that
Illuminati?
we did. I
Do
think we
we?
did, and I have to
Good.
pee, so we're
Oh,
gonna
I have
have
to
to.
pee too. I was
Oh,
like,
good. Oh, that's a great time to end the
yeah, we've
podcast.
been
Yeah,
talking for like 2 hours, so let's sign off and go pee.
that sounds like a great
Thanks again
idea.
for joining me, Jeff.
Thank you, Dale.
Thus concludes our totally salient, straightforward, single pathed Illuminati episode number 2.
Pretty well considering.
Yeah.
You really hyped it up at the beginning as like we're gonna go off topic a lot, but I think we stayed on track and we
Oh,
got
dude.
to like the points that we wanted to do.
I was so stressed out like this morning when I woke up. I was like,
Come on,
"Oh,
man.
we got to do the podcast today. Huh, there's no way we're gonna get it all. Huh, it's not gonna make any sense. Huh, nobody's
I
gonna like
feel
me. Huh."
I feel like I was a calming influence
There you
on you today,
go.
and we made it through and we got to the end and
Thank
we
you, sir.
discussed
You
the
are.
salient points we needed to talk about. We did discuss the moon landing halfway through, which is weird, but
Yeah,
whatever.
which is always good.
Always fun.
I feel us joking about them having bad sex in the movie really brought it all together.
I think that really helped. It did help. It made me feel weird, and I'm not gonna. It made me feel weird. I go ask my wife if she wants to be jackhammered this evening, Illuminati style.
Side note: does watching porn kind of make you feel guilty for being bad at sex?
I feel like I have more in common with porn than I do with the fucking Illuminati orgy scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
On that note.
On that note, go give money to our Patreon. It is the Dale Show. I promise to give Jeff a cut when I get some. Nobody signed up, but hey, that's fine.
That's our plan to get turbo rich.
Yeah, turbo rich. We're gonna have an orgy if you give us enough money.
If you give us enough money, we will have an orgy.
The
It'll just be me and Dale. Yeah. Oh, this orgy's off to a rocky start.
The pay tier for the orgy on the Patreon is $10,000 a month, and it'll be
masks.
Just me
it's
and
cool,
Jeff.
right?
Yeah, and we'll totally wear masks so that it's not actual sex. Yeah. You can follow me on Twitter at SuperDalebot. Jeff, are you on Twitter? Yeah, you're on Twitter.
Follow me on Twitter at Mr. Goats. Oh, hey, just on a quick side note on that, my
Yeah.
100th follower on Twitter was none other than Adrian Mack,
Oh, nice.
friend of the podcast.
Adrian Mack's a good guy. He's my conspiracy guru. He doesn't want to come on the show because he's taking time away from conspiracies right now in these dark times.
Yeah. Anyway,
which I can't blame him.
Yeah, you can find me on the Twitter at Mr. Goats. I'm not very frequent on there. It's mostly poop jokes.
That's what you want.
That's what you want. And don't forget to purchase the Dale Show swag at your Redbubble store.
Yeah, my Redbubble store. I put up the logos, the TDS logo, the Tri-Skull logo.
Super cool.
If you like and review this on all of your podcatchers, I think you're probably either getting this through Spotify or Anchor. We are on YouTube, but it's in the Outrage Factory channel. So just search Outrage Factory on YouTube and you'll find it. If you're listening to this and want to see all those fancy hand signals me and Jeff were making before. Other than that, thank you for your time, and go find your, I don't know, I don't have a say-off sentence.
We'll see you again soon on The Dale Show.
The Dale! I had to tear that down so much when I recorded it.
Absolutely peaks. Yeah. Peaks the limiter.
And I was just going to say, pay attention to how everything links up. You'll go down some, go down the rabbit hole. How's that?
Oh, yeah. We'll see you again. We'll see you next time down the rabbit hole on The Dale Show.
It's kind of cheesy because it's kind of like the Matrix. I don't know. I'll think of something. Okay, bye.
Discover your treasures on The Dale Show. That sounds weird.
I like it.
All right, there we go.
Okay, but for real, fuck off. No, just kidding. How about that? That's good. Okay, bye. How about that?
Done.
Oh, basically.